Well, good morning. How are you all today? Welcome to Integrative Preparedness. Well, we have a lot to talk about if we wanted to, but I want to talk about something particularly important, and that is this a revolution or a restoration, or maybe not is it, but is it going to be, and should it be? Can it be? Okay, that's what I want to talk about today. I've gone through my YouTube feed, and I've seen what other channels have kind of titled their videos, and I even stopped off and watched a few minutes of a couple of them to kind of see what they're saying, and I can't say that I'm surprised, but I want to give a different outlook on this than they have. May not surprise though those of you who have been with me for a while, right? A little bit different outlook on it. By the way, I should start this by welcoming all the new people, both on the YouTube channel and on the Patreon channel. It's great to have you. Those of you who have joined us on the Patreon channel have discovered what I've said, right? It is a great community. And more people have said, boy, this is the best group I've ever been a part of. And I agree. I start every day by posting a few things on the Patreon channel, and then just letting the community come in and start talking about it and add their own things, and it's a great way to start the day. So if you're not with us and you'd like to be, the link is down below. Just come over and join us. $1, $5, whatever you want to do, but you'll be glad that you did. So as a result of this last election, I have found a lot of people in the preparedness world are surprised at what happened, and I don't think that they should have been. And some of them have come on and with that cynical, well, but this is you better be. This doesn't, just because this happened doesn't mean that it's all good, and you better be careful because it kind of reminds me of the guy. When you're standing out in November and it's a beautiful day, and perfect weather, and you say, man, can you believe this weather? And they say, oh, I'm afraid we're going to be paying for it in the wintertime. They just can't accept anything good, right? That's kind of what I see in so much of the preparedness world. Matter of fact, I forget if I said this on this one. I had to restart it because of something, but I've thought about renaming this channel a couple of times. One is preparedness for sane people, and preparedness for positive people, because I think people are missing out on some major lessons and opportunities. Back when, but I'm not going to. Once you have a channel, name something. It's kind of late to go back. People have been surprised that Trump won, and now I see so many Trump detractors now backing up. Right? I've seen so many people who were promising you that World War III was about to start now backing up and say, World War III has been called off. And then other people saying, I heard somebody say, the other people around the world, the leaders around the world, they don't care who's president, whether Trump or this. Yes, they do. They do. And this kind of illustrates one of my concerns, and that is a basic lack of understanding on many world issues on the part of so many. But that's whatever. Everybody has an opinion. But the value of an opinion, of course, is what it's based on, whether it's based on actual knowledge or just how you think, out of fear. Whether you're coming at it from a positive standpoint of really studying and understanding the dynamics of a situation, or whether you're just kind of meandering through life with this negative doom and gloom attitude, and that's not what we do here. If you will remember back when. So I want to talk to you about whether this is a revolution or a restoration. If you look back, if you remember, those of you who have been in preparedness for some time, back during the Obama years, preparedness just exploded, right? Just exploded. And that was because of fear. That was because, and I will say, Um, there is a difference between fear and concern, and as I always say, don't let fear drive you. That preparedness is a responsibility, and it's driven by concern, by an understanding of things that could happen. And well, I had somebody take a shot at me yesterday. Uh, I won't even go. It was funny, but I don't think I'll give him that. It was funny. Um, I, I deleted it, so it's no big deal. Um, there's a difference between fear and concern, and you should be preparing out of a feeling of responsibility as a result of concerns that you have, not out of fear, because fear drives you down a wrong road, makes you waste money, time, and energy, and such as that. And but the concern, or fear on some part, drove people to really start preparing during Obama. And then Trump got in. Remember? And then people started to relax. And I told people at the time, I said, don't relax. We either have a 4-year or an 8-year reprieve. So prep the best you can, because one of the things that so many people in the preparedness world misunderstand is this. Prepping should not be, and you all who have been with me, you know that I hate the term prepping. I hate the term prepper. I call them PMPs, preparedness-minded people, or simply a life of responsibility. The purpose of that is not to prepare for one thing that you just happen to see coming over the horizon, right? Oh no, here it comes. Oh boy, this and that and this and that. I gotta get more beans, and I gotta get more rice, and I gotta get more ammo, and I gotta get more of this. No, it's being able to see over the horizon. Okay, years down the road. It's about increasing the quality of your life every day. Okay, for the rest of your life, and to prepare to allow your children, your grandchildren, your future generations to have a better position in life. That is the proper goal of a preparedness lifestyle. But when people saw Trump come in, they stopped being afraid, and they said, "Oh, well, that's great. We don't have to prepare anymore," and they fell off. They fell off the wagon, and Biden comes in, right, and then people are scared again, and now preparedness goes through the roof again. And now Trump's back in, and now people are, I think, starting to relax again. Ooh, we made it. We don't have to prepare. We don't have to do this. No, what you have to understand that this is the time to prepare. When Obama was in, when Biden was in, you were paying way too much for anything you bought, whether it was a gun or food or whatever, or fuel. You were paying way too much. That's not the time to prepare, because preparedness is really investment in your future. And investment is when you buy low, okay? That the value of what you have bought increases. That's an investment as opposed to an expense. And people who try to prepare during these bad times, they're expending. They're spending money, not investing. Now we're going to come into a new time with Trump, and there will be changes. I've heard a couple of channels say, "Oh, well, there's not going to be any changes immediately." Yes, there will, because the markets. Look what happened to the market. Okay, the markets, our allies, our enemies, know what's coming down the road, and they adjust their behavior as a result. So yes, there is going to be an immediate change in a number of things. Now, when Trump gets in, then the changes will really start being enshrined. But there's going to be changes. So now is the time not to relax, because as to my question, is this a revolution or a restoration? I explained yesterday or the day before, whenever, that the libs, the progressives, have been involved in a revolution since 1917. It's they who have been involved in a revolution. We should never think about ourselves being involved in a revolution at this time, um, because it's not our intent to overthrow a government. See, it's not our intent. Thankfully, I think that we have averted a civil war, which is much different than a revolution. A revolution is the overthrowing of a government, whereas a civil war is the competition between two or more sides for control of the same government. But we are not involved in a revolution, nor should we think about it that way. We now have a chance to look at it as a restoration. Okay, that's why I put in the channel American Reversion, because I said, and where I talked more about politics, because at the time there were just too many negative people on the preparedness channels that didn't want to. They didn't know much about politics. They didn't want to be involved in it. They wouldn't do anything about it. They're the ones who won't vote. They're the ones who won't vote because they just don't want. They don't want to stand up. They don't want to make a decision. They want to be able to complain about things as opposed to standing by a position they have arrived at as a result of application of intelligence and experience. So we are not involved in a revolution. Rather, whether we're involved in a reversion, like I named that, or a restoration, and now I see it more as a restoration. When you have an old car, and it's they've let it go, you've let it go, and it's got some rust. We have a Mustang Cobra sitting in our garage that, now don't anybody come in and try to break in and steal it. I say that for the person that says, "OPSEC, Steve, OPSEC." No, we got a Mustang Cobra sitting in our garage that needs restoration. We're going to get around to it someday. But it's when you still have the basics, you have the bones, and it doesn't need to be thrown out. It doesn't need to be burned down. It needs to be restored. You need to find the things that are not working right. Okay, the things that are broken, you need to fix them or replace them. And that's the situation I think we find ourselves in here now in our country, in the United States. And, a lot of people have talked in the past, and I've talked myself about what are the chances that the United States can survive much longer. Well, a lot of us have had the opinion that it's not going to survive much longer. But then we see a reawakening of an American spirit like we have in this latest election, with a vast cross-section of Americans, all races, both sexes. Ooh, will I get kicked off for saying both sexes? Different demographics. And we're seeing where the weak demographics are. Yeah. We are seeing an awakening, I think, at this point, like I've never seen before, including Reagan. And it brings us to the point to where we should consider the real possibility of a restoration of our republic. Now, it doesn't mean that we should let our guard down. As a matter of fact, as times get better, and they will, it's time to increase your preparedness. Well, Steve, why should I increase my preparedness when times are better? Because your ultimate goal is not just to survive some calamity, but to increase the quality of your life from now on and generations on. So as times are easier, now's the time to build. Now's the time to build that business you've been starting or thinking about. It's the time to increase your financial stability. It's a time to improve your quality of life right here, right now. As I've said before, that too many in the preparedness world have been consumed with this idea of having to live back in the 1840s and everything's going to collapse, or we're going to have an EMP, or we're going to have a collapse of the government or the economic system, or an asteroid's going to hit us, or nuclear war, or something like that, right? And so they've been consumed with this idea of separating from not just, and I've always said, you need to separate yourself from reliance on the system, but they want to separate themselves from involvement with the system. And when you do that, when you separate yourself from involvement with the system, you're going to hold yourself back unless you are a large organized community like the Amish. Okay, but most people aren't out there, and so you got 40 people together. Great, I think that's great, but you aren't large enough to be a fairly self-sustaining organization, and even the Amish rely on the system that surrounds them, right? So too many preppers get this idea that, well, I want to be able to live, and we're gonna live like it now, so that when everything collapses, it won't shock us, right? We're gonna live in a little hut, and we're gonna poop in a bucket, and we're gonna all sorts of things. I can't imagine that most people have a desire to act like that. I mean, I don't know anybody who does, but they kind of get away from being able to make the best use of the opportunities that the system we have now affords them. And it's by dealing with the system, not necessarily being dependent on it. You should be as independent as possible. By dealing with the system, you're able to access those opportunities and to build your life, to build the strength and the quality of your life. Simple as that. So, I don't have nobody should be thinking about revolution at this point. And they should understand that the left, the progressives, the communists have been involved in a long-term revolution with us. But finally somebody stood up who was strong enough, and that's Trump. He stood it up. Look at everything that guy has done. They've tried to break him financially. They have tried to put him in prison. They've tried to kill him. And he just stands up. This is an amazing man. And, there's a lot of people out there, I just don't like, well, you don't know much about him. That's why. You don't know. I have yet to meet anybody who has these horrible opinions of Trump who knows very much about him. I know a lot about him. I've followed him for years. And you've probably never met anybody that approaches him in being able to withstand challenges and coming back and keep coming back. And so he has come back. And what we saw yesterday, or was it yesterday, day before, whenever, on election day, was the result of people coming out, participating in the system, voting. This was the power of the vote. And I hope that all those people who have been grousing about the voting doesn't matter, if it mattered, they wouldn't let us do it. What a victim mindset. I don't think they think of themselves, they don't recognize themselves as victims, but they are. And these are people that you don't want to listen to. Because what we saw was finally an awakening of enough of the American people to participate in the system our founders formed for us, and set things back on the path that should take us in the right direction. Now, how far down we go that path, whether we get everything fixed or whether we get halfway there and then the wheels fall off again, depends on you. It depends on the American people. It really does. I'm not going to get into that. I'll talk more about that on the American Reversion channel, but it's about what we need to do now. But what you need to do now as a preparedness-minded person is understand that you should not be looking at this through a negative lens like, well, it looks good, but I'm just too smart, right? No. You should be looking at this through a positive lens. Be ready for them to be some stumbles along the way. And then don't say, oh, I knew it. No. Use this time. We're coming into a better time. Use this time to increase your preparedness so that if something big happens, you're ready. And if nothing big happens, see, that's the thing. And I've said this so many times before. This world could go on very much like it is now. We may not go back to living in the 1840s. You may continue to live in a world of continually increasing technological development. And you have to be as prepared for that as you are for living in the woods. That's what real preparedness is, and that's what really building a quality of life is. That's what those people who are more affluent do. I always am amused. Well, I don't know, amused. I'm interested to see the more affluent people always do prepare for the future in a continually developing world, whereas the many of the others prepare for a future of a collapsing world. And so far, although we've had problems, we are not living in any kind of collapse. I mean, I know the hurricanes and all that. There were people whose lives collapsed, but look at all the people that helped, and look at all the technology that was available to bring them back. Okay. So anyway, my main message here is be positive. This is a channel, if you're new here, this is a channel for positive preparing, for sane preparing. Don't be insane. Don't be negative. Be positive. Don't say, "Oh my gosh, there's problems." Say, "Ooh, there's a situation to be dealt with. What can I do about it? What should I do about it? And now let's get at it." Okay. So again, whether this is a temporary reprieve or whether this is a setting back on the path, returning America to what it should be, depends entirely on the people. Depends on you. If you voted, great. You are a part of the process. You're part of the solution. If you didn't vote, you're not. You should be ashamed. You really should. And I'll talk more about that on the other channel. So anyway, it's a good day in America. It's a good day for the rest of the world with Trump coming back in. "Oh, you're just a Trump." You know what? Here's what somebody's going to say. "Trump is not our savior." Straw man argument. Nobody said he was. Said he's the best man for the job now. Okay. Time's going to be better. Make use of these better times. Okay. All right. Well, as I always say, we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. And I didn't even show you the cup that I was drinking out of today. And we hope that we, not just him, can make America great again. Like that mug? A bunch of you have already bought this on our website. I didn't even talk about my books or anything like that today. Stonemont.us. If you want to get some of the Stonemont stuff, go over there and get it. You may have it. With that, you all have a good day. Think about what you can be doing positively, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.